to me what Dallas was going to do this next season. They're going to do a youth movement. They're going to look at their young guys and see what they got and start throwing them out there. And it felt good that if we're not in a place where we're really going all in, sorry I have to use that word, then let Tyron go to the Jets where they have Aaron Rodgers. They're signing people. It sounds like they're bringing in Mike Williams.
Yep.
And he can go for a run. There's no reason to play him 12 games here if our plan is to throw Mozzie Smith and Tolbert and Hoffman and all these young guys out and say, all right, let's see who can ball and who can't. So I was relieved personally.
Okay. And Paul?
Hashtag sad, man. I was just sad. End of an era, man, for sure. Hate to see Tyron go, but I don't know what to make of the Jets team this season, but hopefully he can have a long playoff run, one that he deserves.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brendan?
It hurt because Dallas always talk about like how everyone should want to play for them. They do by their own guys. They only bring their guys back, and they just let Tyron just leave. It's not like, oh, we're losing a huge talent. It's just he should have retired as a Cowboy. Seeing the Jets post hurt my soul.
Yeah. No, I posted a tweet out just honestly 30 minutes ago or so where I was talking about all the Cowboys greats that in my lifetime I've watched that haven't had an opportunity to not even win a Super Bowl, but even play in a Super Bowl with the team. And DeMarcus Ware comes to mind. Tyron Smith's going to be added to that list. Tony Romo, Terrence Newman, Travis Frederick. The list just keeps on going on and on and on. And it's to the point where it's like, when do we finally say, like, enough is enough? We have these guys that are eventually going to be in the Hall of Fame, the Ring of Honor for our team, and they didn't even get a deep playoff run, let alone a Super Bowl or, an appearance in a Super Bowl. Tyron Smith just gets added to that list. So, if I had a one-word reaction, I would just say enough. Like, enough is enough. Like, we've got to do something to get these guys that we've drafted, we've developed, and molded into these Hall of Fame type of players to the promised land, to that place they so much deservingly should get to. So I do like that idea of the one-word reaction, though. That's a cool thing. My guy Falcon says Dallas is in rebuild mode without being in rebuild mode. And the team is not calling it that. And it kind of feels like we're going towards that type of road. We saw that, with Hankins recently signed, I think today, with the Seattle Seahawks. They're not going to bring him back. Dorrance Armstrong as well, going to the Commanders, which I just call them the East Coast Cowboys now because it seems like they're the Washington Cowboys. And signed Fowler and a whole host of other players from the Cowboys as well. So, yeah, it's getting to that point where it's like, it's weird because Jerry said all in, but it's like, yeah, we're moving towards that youth movement that you were talking about, Mike, and it starts with letting go of a Tyron, a Tyler Biadasz, a Dorrance Armstrong. So, do you kind of agree with Falcon? Where are you guys at? And I'll start with Paul.
Do I agree with us going into rebuild? Yeah, that's what it looks like. I mean, with a youth movement, as I believe was the word that Mike used last night, and I don't hate it, only just because I feel like this is maybe something we should have done at least once previous to this time in the Dak era, just kind of giving our young guys an opportunity to see what they have, and instead of bringing in these older veterans and just trying to be competitive. I think you give yourself a chance to either draft the best player available, see what you have on your roster, give you an idea of what the future holds. And I don't know. I'm excited for the youth movement.
Yeah. I got to shout out my guy, Troy Park, who's in the building, says, "What's up, guys?" So I got to shout him out. Yeah, it's weird because I really do think that like the all-in label was kind of last year's team. Like, I feel like Jerry made those trades for Gilmore, made the trades for Cooks. And it felt more like, okay, we're going to go all in for that year. And then we got blew out by the Packers first round in our house where we hadn't lost, 16, 17 straight games. Mm-hmm. So it's strange that he would come into this offseason and use that all in type of label. However, we have those young guys that we need to see what they have. I don't anticipate Cooper Rush being on this team. I think that we are going to be able to see Trey Lance in some stints, whether it is blowing out a terrible team like we're so accustomed to doing at home. So we're going to see that guy. We're probably going to see some TJ Bass. We're probably going to see some Brock Hoffman, some Asim Richards in there. It's really hinging upon the draft, but it does really seem like we're going into that youth movement. Since you brought it up, Mike, go ahead and talk a little bit more about that and what you expect to see from some of those younger guys.
Yeah, I think what Dallas is going to do is, and the article I dropped today was about like how could Dallas field a team right now? What free agents would they have to pick? Like clearly they need a running back. Even if Rico's your running back one, you just don't have enough bodies. You need a veteran running back, so they have to sign one of those. I went through and I was like, okay, if you put Tyler Smith, TJ Bass, Hoffman, Zach Martin, and Steele as your starters, you still need a reserve because you have Asim Richards and Walesko really that are viable. You know, Josh Ball is not a viable player. We know that. You know, the other two kids they have are not people that are guys that can play on Sunday. So
I don't know if you know this, but Josh's middle name is Cant. So it's Josh Cantball.
That's beautiful. So the idea was that, and as I looked through, I mean, if you like their defensive line right now is going to be Tank, Parsons, Osa, Mozzie, and then Sam Williams is your first rotating person. Their linebackers is Kendrick, Overshone, and Clark. So you're going to play Overshone and Clark and see what they got. It just is what it is. You're going to leave this year knowing a lot of noise about your first round pick last year, about your offensive line, your young offensive linemen, and about a couple of young wide receivers, probably Jalen Brooks, Tolbert, and that's going to be their plan. And a lot of people think like we're going into the draft and it's going to be, it's a left tackle or it's a center. And I'm sitting there going, you know, I know for a fact that Dallas is looking at third round centers and I can tell you that guaranteed that trading back in the second round or a third round is more likely where they get their center than early. So if the right edge or the right wide receiver drops round one, I don't be shocked if they do that, because if you look towards next year, Cooks is gone. Tank might be gone. J-Lou might be gone. So they may look to more refill those things in the draft than just like, we better upgrade center because we want to win. No, they'll just play Hoffman. All right, let's see if Hoffman can play and we want to sign him, or if he's no good and we got to replace him. You know, so just be prepared for that going forward. Have that in your mind coming into the draft.
Yeah. No, and to your point, like I would rather the Cowboys do that. Just line them up, pick BPA, and not window dress your board like, you know, the saying goes. I do have to shout out somebody it's in the chat right here. Engineered Psycho. Dude has been a absolute grinder on Twitter for me, always reposting my stuff, but he hardly ever makes the live show. So he's finally here. Got to shout him out. Thank you for joining the live show tonight, my buddy. Awesome. My guy Falcon says if JPJ is there, which is the center out of Oregon for anybody that doesn't know, they're insane for not taking him. And then got to cross the Cowboys with why? Yeah, it's one of those things, man. I really do hope that the Cowboys have enough awareness of how bad that last year's draft was and don't fall into the same trap of trying to fill needs with every single pick. Just go in there, draft the best players, and you've trusted your scouts so many times before, and it's worked out for you. You think about the CeeDee Lamb pick, you think about the Diggs pick, all of those offensive linemen. Name whoever it is in the first round. If we pick them, they're usually really good. Trust your board, trust your scouts, because they typically are very, very good. It's when the coaches get in the ear and say, we really need a big defensive tackle to stop the run. Then you end up with Mozzie Smith, who's really a second round grade for me in the first round. Or, hey, we have a really young tight end group. Maybe we should use, our second round pick on one of these tight ends. And then you get a guy who's injured in training camp, and Luke Schoonmaker, who's realistically had, I think, maybe 12 receiving yards all year. Obviously, probably more than that. But for a time, he literally had 2 touchdown catches and 2 yards. That's where he was used. So, and obviously Overshown I think would have been pretty good if not for the ACL tear, but do not window dress your board. That's a really good point, Mike, that you were just laying out. Brendan, what were your thoughts on this youth movement? And with that, who are some names that we should watch as, maybe they're jumping into the sphere of, hey, this is a guy we can build around, not only just have as a depth piece?
It all depends on like what they're really trying to do. Their off seasons every year, they never go full into anything. It's always halfway, like, oh, we're gonna try to contend. We'll make some moves, and then you're like, well, why are you trying to get these younger guys out there? Like, oh, we don't care. Oh, we're gonna go. We're not gonna go full rebuild. They still haven't signed Dak or CD Lamb, so they're all just banking on 1-year deals to prove everything. Next year, they always say deadlines make deals. I think honestly, this is gonna sound like a big shocker coming from me, but I think Ferg honestly should be focused. No, this is gonna be all jokes, man. But like,
surprise.
How did I know? I feel like a mind reader right now. I knew you were gonna say Fergie.
Me and you have talked about Fergie so much, EJ.
Yeah, facts.
Honestly, though, because he's just become a blanket. Dax, it depends on who they get at left tackle. I would love to see what Asim Richards can do, but banking on a late round, a mid round draft pick just to secure the blind side for Dak terrifies me. I liked what I saw in the preseason. He looked decent, but then why wasn't he ever out there? Whenever I hated Chuma.
Yeah. Well, just to jump in here real quick, and I'll let you go. After the draft, literally they pulled in some scouts on the draft show and they were talking about the picks, and they specifically brought up Asim Richards as, and you can date it back to McCarthy in Green Bay. They would pick athletic offensive tackles that didn't really have the greatest size for the position and the arm length for the position at tackle, and they kick them inside, and they feel like that transition is good typically. And that's literally what the scout said on the draft show about Asim Richards is, yeah, he's a guy that we really like transitioning into the inside. So we'll probably let him, kind of do what he's been doing, because I believe he had like 37 starts at UNC. 36 of them came at tackle. So that's what he was known for doing. But it seems like the scouts and the Cowboys, personnel department felt like he was more transitioned to the inside. So who knows if he's an actual tackle for this team moving forward, or if he's your swing guy. But it would have been a really good thing to see last year what he had out there, instead of a Chuma Edoga that cannot pick up blitz pickups or has lapses of mental errors where he can't even, block anybody. He's blocking air. So, anyways, back to your point, Brendan.
Think about Chuma Edoga just brings back anger from the season.
Facts.
But
yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I thought you were done.
No, you're good. Honestly, there's some younger guys on it, but there's not too many. That's fair. We had a good old talk about that last night on the podcast about Michigan players. But honestly, there's not too many young guys that I really want to see work, because I want to see what Sam Williams can do, but then now he's just partying his entire offseason away, which is, hey, you're young, you have fun, but if you're going to be the potential to be in the starting defensive end, if you want to move Micah more around at linebacker, why in the hell aren't you just, training to be the best you can? I'm tired of seeing defensive ends in the second round, just half-ass stuff and just not try.
Yeah. There's so many young guys that just didn't get the opportunity to play, and when they did get the opportunity to play, they were playing punt team, aka Sam Williams. Like, you gotta find a way to get him on the field, not on special teams. Like, I guess special team, like a field goal blocking unit. That's one thing, but as a gunner, like, come on now. Anyways, I got to bring up my guy, Steven Mack, saying, yo, what up, Steven? I love weed. He brought this up. Stay away from the Michigan guys. And in the words of Stephen A. Smith, stay off the weed. Yeah, I think that, and I'll also bring this up real quick. Draft Junior Colson, Blake Corum, national championship Michigan Wolverines. He's my resident Michigan Wolverine fan. Falcon is. No, but I think you make a good point. Is like, we've got to figure out the second round thing. because typically, dating back to the Cowboys, they're picking injured guys in the second round or they're picking problem guys in the second round. Kelvin Joseph, Sam Williams, Jalen Smith, you name them. They're typically injured guys or character concern guys that should have been drafted earlier, but they kind of dropped but they still have the talent, kind of a deal. So you got to figure out second round. We absolutely cannot miss, in my opinion, first round, second round, really third round. It needs to go almost 3 deep in this draft to feel really good about yourself. And you're really hoping that you get a draft that you can get 5 quality pieces. Now, not all of them have to start, but they have to contribute to the team right away to feel good about your teams and cut the losses from the year prior's draft. Do you guys kind of feel the same? What are your guys' expectations for this draft moving forward? And I'll start it off with Paul again.
With this draft moving forward, I mean, you know, again, we talked a lot about the youth movement. I think they're just going to draft best player available, and this is kind of just a wait and see type of year. We saw it last year with their draft class when they took Mozzie and they took some players, players at positions you're like, that was an interesting pick, and we know that those players didn't really produce. I kind of feel like we're going to do the same thing again this year.
Yeah. Got to shout out my guys, Mike Tagg from the Cowboys Cave. And I also have to throw this back into your guys' face because I am the champion of the Fantasy Football League. I'm coming back for the next dub next year. No, but my guy Mike, he says we need some guys from the U. So he's talking about Miami. He's a big Miami Hurricanes fan. I don't know that I love anybody from the U in this draft, but you know, I had to shout that out for him. Go ahead, Mike, though. Your thoughts with this draft and whatnot.
Can we take some from Florida State instead?
Yeah, no, Florida State has a host of some pretty good players.
They have a lot better. Also, the guy that said Michigan, I'm not a big Chris Jenkins fan. I think he has some issues that Mozzie had, and he'd take a little bit to develop. But don't scout the helmet, man, because I mean, Aiden Hutchinson was from that school too. Rashawn Gary was from that. You know, we just picked I'm not going to say wrong. I love Mozzie Smith. I think defensive tackles take sometimes 2-3 seasons. So I'm not killing him yet, but even if he ended up not being good, like Junior Colson's from there, he could be good. Blake Corum is a good, as the gentleman said earlier, is a running back that could be productive year one. Like they have dudes. Don't just skip over Michigan because you know that it hasn't worked before, because you have other spots where there's other schools that didn't work, and you don't want to just knock out players because of that. That's not a good idea.
No, and you make a good point, is just don't scout the helmet. Either way, good or bad. Like, just because he plays for Alabama or Ohio State doesn't mean he's going to be a good wide receiver at the next level. Now, yes, those wide receivers typically transition pretty well from those schools, but do not scout the helmet. And same thing with Michigan and the negative factors. Yes, the Taco Charltons. Yes, the Mozzie Smith, Luke Schoonamaker deals. Just don't do that. It's just a rule of thumb whenever you're scouting. Let the film speak for itself. I do got to bring up my guy Tacos and Touchdowns Live, which is my guy Aaron B. Over there on his podcast, showing some support and jumping in here. Appreciate you, my guy. Stephen Mack brings up Tavondre Sweat will save us. Hook him, pair him on the defense with Agent O. I'm a big Tavondre Sweat fan, so I would like that. Does he make it to the third round? Who knows? Second round, I don't know. I'm like, I feel like we have higher positions of need, but now that Hankins has went into the Seahawks, D tackle goes a little bit more up in the draft board. Brendan, what's your top 3 needs for this team moving forward?
I could say so many things, honestly, but I think it's offensive line, running back, and I would go D-line because there's almost nothing there besides D-Law and Micah.
Okay. And Paul?
Defensive tackle, running back, and edge.
And Mike?
Sorry, not edge, linebacker, sorry.
Okay.
Are we talking about for the team to try to win this season, that type of need?
I'll put the caveat of, like, let's say next 3 years, like, what do you see? And this include, like, how many players are on 1-year deals? Like, you got to think about that as well. So where would you go with that?
Defensive tackle, edge rusher, wide receiver. would be my three.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in pick the premium positions. And I think that's what we really fell a victim into last year. You talk about 3 non-premium positions with our first 3 picks: linebacker, defensive tackle, and tight end. So when I think of the biggest impact players, it's like corner, wide receiver, quarterback. You got to figure out what you're doing with Dak Prescott, obviously. Um, Tackles, centers. I think center is so underrated as a premium position because they're dictating the blocking assignments. They're calling stuff out. They're helping your quarterback not have to worry about getting the blocking assignments lined up, and they can just stick back there and mess around with, okay, what's the secondary doing? What's the safeties doing? Reading the coverage. That helps your quarterback out so much. And that's one thing I do believe we're going to miss with Tyler Biadasz, because that role transitioned to Tyler Biadasz this past year. Now it's going to be on the shoulder of a rookie and or Brock Hoffman or maybe TJ Bass in there. So that's something to look out for in the future. Looks like the chat is saying offensive tackle, D tackle, linebacker, running back, middle linebacker from Troy. There's some good names that are being brought up. Zach Zenner would be an amazing for the talent in the later rounds. I believe he's the center out of Michigan. We got Brock Hoffman will be just fine. He's locked in. I think personally for me, offensive tackle or some type of offensive line would be the ideal position round 1. If you guys had to put your money on the table right now, where do you think the Cowboys are going round 1? And I'll just throw it over here to Brendan.
It all depends on honestly who falls, but no, I'm for sure the person shooting for an offensive lineman. I don't feel comfortable with this group at all.
Okay, Mike.
I think if Amarius Mims is there at 24, they take him. Any other O lineman other than Mims or Troy Fatts falling, I think they try to trade back. I guess the things that I've heard from them, I feel like if the draft falls the right way, they would prefer to take offensive line later. And they would like an edge or a wide receiver to fall. But you just don't know that's going to happen. So,
Mike, have you watched Liatu Latu?
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, he's one of those guys that could get me to move off of an offensive lineman in the first round.
If
he drops.
Falls to 24, it's CeeDee Lamb. It's CeeDee Lamb.
I feel the same way. He paired with, and yes, like, sure, he's not the biggest guy. He's not going to give you the elite run defender, but what he does give you is a great second rusher paired with Micah that's a technician. Micah wins, and this is no slight to Micah, but Micah wins through athleticism primarily. He's going to get that nuance the more that he gets the understanding of how to play pass rusher and those rip and roll techniques and all that stuff. And he has come a long way, so don't get me wrong, but he's not on the level, in my opinion, as a Liatu Latu with his understanding and his counters and his just... He is such a cerebral player. You can tell he has a pass rush plan from the very beginning. And if something doesn't work, he's instantly into the next counter. You saw that at the Senior Bowl. He is one of those players that I believe, like you said, is in that CeeDee Lamb kind of a territory if we did pick him. Paul, I'll drop it off to you. And if you've watched Liatu Latu, go ahead and add something to that discussion as well.
I'm by no means a film guy. I get all my insight from Mike, but based on the conversation we had last night, I would say, and just talking with Mike, I would think the Cowboys might take a wide receiver or possibly trade back, which was what I kind of would like for them to do.
Yeah. Well, here's my thing: is like watching film through primarily the offensive tackles. I feel really, really good about a solid 8 of them. Now, does that stretch into the second round? Is where I'm really questioning. I think the only real guy that I feel confident is going to be there in the second round is probably the BYU tackle, Suamatahi, I believe his last name is. So, like, I feel like you're almost pigeonholed into that offensive tackle position round 1. Somebody brought up Morgan out of Arizona, which I really like. He's a primary left tackle, a technician as far as the position is played. However, he doesn't have the length the Cowboys like with the 34-inch arms. He doesn't.
Yeah.
He probably transitions more into guard. So it's one of those things you got to know what your your talent evaluators like in their players. Like you've heard from years past, Dan Quinn likes the long, lengthy corners. Do they move off of that now that Dan Quinn isn't here? So it's going to be an interesting thing to see, but typically the Cowboys like the raw athletic, or I won't say raw, like if they're good, they're going to pick them. But I'm saying the guys that have that athletic upside, they have the length, they have the stature. So I think they would probably lean more like a Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma. Trying to think of anybody else that pops out. Amarius Mims, as you brought up earlier, he's one of those guys that has all the size in the world. Yes, he doesn't have all the game tape, but when he is on the field, he is very polished. He looks like he knows exactly what he's doing, and the injury concerns might be there, but I feel good about getting a good tackle round one, and especially if our scouts feel good about it because they pick so well at that offensive line. I do want to shift the show back to the news of Michael Gallup being released and then LVE and then his eventual retirement. What was your guys' thoughts on those two moves? And do you feel because of the Gallup move, wide receiver is completely open? I know Mike said and Paul said earlier, like, wide receivers right there. If you feel good enough about them in round one, do you think it's a realistic, way that the Cowboys could go in round one? And I'll just go ahead and start off with Mike.
I would say, as far as LVE and Gallup were concerned, it was expected. So it stinks that he had to retire from medical, but we also, as fans of the player, stuff like that, don't risk yourself. Like, go have a good life, man. Easy for me to say I'm not playing football, love the thing that I love to do and everything, but it's just I can't see a team saying no, go ahead and play. Oh, you're good. Go, like, retire on your own. Don't try to force it. People aren't going to let you out there and let you risk yourself. As far as in the draft, I think that if they go, the funny thing for me is, if they go wide receiver, I think it's more about Cooks than it is about Gallup. I think Tolbert and even Jalen Brooks had started to take Gallup's, snaps until the playoff game. He had one big playoff game when the game was kind of already over. So I don't think it was about this year. I think if they get a wide receiver, it's about, hey, we're about to pay Lamb a ton of money. Let's get another good number two that we can get on the cheap, but that is an awesome player to go with him so that the money balance is out for him. So I think wide receiver is definitely in play in the first 3 rounds, and it'll be about replacing Cooks next year.
I see chat bringing up a lot of Keon Coleman. Since you watch a lot of film, Mike, like what are your thoughts on Keon Coleman? I'll state it. I'm out on Keon Coleman. I'd let somebody else draft him. I just don't think he separates as good as he should. And not only just the regular separation, I don't think he gears down all that well. He can get up to gear, and I know that 40 time is a topic of discussion. I don't see like him not being athletic. He's athletic. I just there's just more better wide receivers I feel like are, more worthy of 24 if it gets to that point. If you tell me he gets to the second round to our pick, I feel like, okay, he's upside. He could be like, that jump ball receiver. Think about the Tony Romo, Des Bryant era, the back shoulder fade kind of a thing. He could be that type of receiver for you, but I don't believe that he separates good enough to truly be a difference maker. And you see why CeeDee Lamb is so good at what he does. He's a technician at the point of the break, even before the play, before the cornerback even gets his hands on him. He's doing something at the line to shake them, getting up. He's just crafty, and he knows how to get yards after the catch as well. For such a big guy, Keon Coleman didn't seem to want to lay hits on corners whenever he got the ball in yards after the catch situations. I wasn't a big Keon Coleman guy, but I'm interested to hear what you have to say about him as well.
Okay, we're on the same page here, and here's what I'll say, because me and Foots get into it about this guy. He loves Foots. He has a first round grade on him. I'm a middle of the round, second round more for me.
Yeah, I got a 2-3 on him.
Yes, I think he is on. Take the Cowboys out of it. X wide receiver, second round, big guy. You develop him. He becomes a special talent. Maybe takes a year. Absolutely, I'm in. For Dallas, I hate and it has two things. One, McCarthy. I don't like him in a West Coast concept offense at all because he doesn't separate well enough. He's not a technician route runner on slants. He's more of a vertical guy. I hate that. And I also don't like it because Dak likes his wide receivers to separate. He's not a 50-50 ball guy. That's not what he does. He's not YOLO and stuff up because you got a one-on-one. He wants to see that you can get open and trust that you can get open before he's just going to start pitching you the ball.
Yep.
And that
and I'll speak to this as well. When Dak does throw the 50-50 balls, you notice in a part of the field he does that along the sideline. Keon Coleman, I don't believe, is good along the sideline either.
Absolutely. It's just not a fit. And people think that I hate the player. I hate his fit on Dallas.
Yeah.
If we were a different offense with a different quarterback, I absolutely understand taking Coleman at the end of the first all the way through the second round. I totally get it. I don't like his fit here in Dallas. I think it would take him at 2 seasons before he got enough chemistry with Dak to where they can make something happen. And it's just not what we need. We need a guy that can do stuff right now. So he's not a guy for me.
Yeah, I think that kind of what you're saying, like Xavier Worthy, I love the player, hate the fit on the Cowboys. I just think that he works too much out of the slot. That takes CD out of his special role and what he does so well there. So that's kind of like the adverse of that. So I definitely see what you're saying. Dropping it down to Brendan, what's your thoughts on the realistic possibility of Cowboys going wide receiver round 1?
Like I said, it all depends on who falls and actually who they like. I would not be mad at all if Brian Thomas comes to Dallas. My crazy mock draft, I'm going to keep bringing it up because I would absolutely go insane with Roma Dunze falling, which it's not going to happen, but it happened.
You'd have to trade up for him.
It happened in my mock draft, so it happened in my mock draft. So, but it all depends on who falls. I want to think about that. That was more of seam shots with the Ferg ball than anything.
Yeah, the Ferg thing in Ari, friend of the show, has got on here as well, and she knows Brendan as well because she's got on a show with him as well. So glad that you're in the chat. With the Ferguson thing, it mostly seam shots, and that's Dak's probably best throw that he throws. So he has a lot of trust in that throw specifically. And I think that Ferguson, he's one of those guys that, have you ever like played, collective sports and you feel like one guy, you just lean on him? Like you feel like this dude, he's going to do it because he just has that aura around him. I think Ferguson's like that. Honestly, I really do. I feel like he's one of those guys that gets the other guys hyped up or gets them feeling like, hey guys, we can come back from this. Like, dude, the scoreboard, we're down 20. No, we're going to come back from it. He was the only guy still grinding in that Green Bay game with Dak. So, you have a point with the 50-50 thing with Ferguson, but I think that's very special in the specific route and connection between he and Ferguson. So
different type of throw as well. Seam 50-50 ball is different than a deep elevated, 50-50 ball or a back shoulder ball. It's just not one that Dak is comfortable throwing. Not that he couldn't. He just doesn't. He doesn't like to risk that. It's not a risk he wants to do. But
also,
he'll miss that seam ball. It's more of a gun. It's not like this.
A loft,
it's like this.
And you got to think about who's covering Ferguson. It's a linebacker. It's a safety. They're not probably going to have the same ball skills as a corner as well. So there's a little bit of that as well. So got to shout out my guy Vince in the chat, says, "What's up, guys?" Paul, go ahead and answer the question though, because I want to get this conversation rolling. Keep on going.
As far as the wide receiver in the first round, I mean, like Mike and Bruno said, it just depends on how the draft falls. But if they like a guy there, I mean, I didn't think CeeDee Lamb they would draft CeeDee Lamb if he was there, and I was proven wrong. So you never know what can happen.
Yeah. No, and before the draft, we were all hearing Diggs could possibly go to the Cowboys round one. The Cowboys made the right choice, went CeeDee Lamb in round one, and the draft gods shined down on them and allowed them to get Trayvon Diggs second round. And those are two of your best players on the roster. So when you go the BPA route, it helps you. It's what the good teams do. Go that way, Cowboys. Please do not fall into the victim of going with a fit that you have to be pigeonholed in and a position of non-value. I think the worst case scenario for me would be a linebacker round one. I don't care if it's Edgerrin Cooper. I don't care if it's Peyton Wilson. I love those two players, but they're not round one guys for me, and it's a low positional value, position. So I did want to bring up this by my guy, Engineer Psycho. Want a guy to fit this year. Give me Luke McCaffrey in the late second, early third. This guy can play. Hands were made for catching, not throwing. Plus he can run at running back. I have not watched Luke McCaffrey, but the brother of Christian McCaffrey. So got a good bloodline right there. Personally, I think, and from what I'm hearing from some guys I trust, I think I'd probably slot him more into the third, fourth round. But it's such a deep wide receiver class. I feel like that position is going to stretch a little bit. Let's jump into the portion of the show of where we're talking about our pet cats. And I will just drop it to Brendan because I feel like he's going to have some juicy pet cats for this draft.
Ferguson.
So there's one that I just love in the first round, which is Jackson Powers Johnson, just because he's a mover at center. But mine also because I'm a TCU fan, but only bright spot, which we were talking about a little bit yesterday. I love Josh Newton. I know what Mike was talking about. He's a cover two corner. He was the only person that was able to do anything on TCU's defense, and he's been doing it for multiple years. He was one of the only guys playing hard against Michigan in the playoffs, and then of course when they got absolutely demolished in the national championship. But he was the only one out there flying around, sticky, and I like his skill set. For
sure. Mike, do you have any pet cats?
Yeah, I like Bo Limmer, center out of
Arkansas.
Thank you. Oh my God, it's like I lost it right there. I was like, oh no.
No, you're good.
Powerhouse guy, and I'm
he's a mentality guy too. He's got a tough mentality.
I'm tired of athletic small guy. I'm just being honest. I want 5 Tyler Smiths. Like, not that they have to be all pro, but guys that like, I don't care what you do, you ain't moving me back. So you're gonna have to go around me. You're not going through me. I don't want that anymore. So he would be one. I have no problem drafting him at 24. But I have Barton higher than Jackson Powers Johnson. I have a second round grade on Jackson Powers Johnson, who I think is awesome and would be a killer. And I would take him at 24, but I like Barton and I would take Mims on the offensive line before.
Where do you have Barton at position wise?
Barton would be a center for Dallas. I believe he could play across all of them, but I believe he'd be a center here. And he played a center his freshman year at Duke. His tape is really good. And I have him as my 5th best O-line in the draft. Out, Fats, Bawaga. I feel like I'm missing one. Another,
Fashanu.
And then Barton.
Do you have Olu Fashanu in there?
Yeah, sorry. I call him Fats. It's a Vach thing.
Oh, okay. So Olu
we
Fashanu.
Don't mess up his name.
Or are you talking? I thought you were talking about Troy Fontenot.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I think that. Oh, sorry, Paul, you haven't spoke. Pet cats.
No, you're good. Yeah, I don't really have any pet cats, man. Just a player that I would be excited to see in Dallas, who I think would be a nice fit, a good addition to the offense, would be Braylon Allen. I know he's a 3rd round guy, so I'm not necessarily falls into that pet cat kind of category, but Braylon Allen is a player I'd be excited to see Dallas draft.
Running back.
Braylon Allen. Yeah, I think that Braylon Allen, he's intriguing as a prospect in general just because he's so young. He's only 20 years old, I believe. Mm-hmm. He's a rocked up dude too. I mean, think like 6'3", built like a linebacker, can land hits, takes a little bit to get going. But generally, once he does get going, he's hard to get down. Can be utilized in a third down type of role. I wasn't super impressed with him as a pass catcher, as even as a pass blocker, and picking blitz pickups. But that's why he has a third, fourth round grade for me. He is super young, like I mentioned, so he is a guy that you could see that youth movement cultivate in the draft, and they pick these guys that are young in the draft as well, so they can help develop. So yeah, I like that one. And somebody also brought him up earlier in the chat. I want to say it was Stephen Mack. But who knows? He says JPJ's mom actually follows him on Twitter, which is funny. Yeah, I'm downgraded to 0 Cowboys players following me on Twitter now with the news of Jonathan Hankins going to the Seahawks. So, I think Brendan, you have Ferg following you, right?
Darn right I do.
There you go, buddy.
Dez is on my.
Dez, there you go.
That's an awesome poll.
Paul, do you have anybody?
Dalton Schultz is still following me. He hasn't blocked me yet. No, I'm kidding. I'm not. No, I'm joking. I don't know if he is or not, but I'm not sure if I do have any Cowboys fans following me or Cowboys players following me.
Yeah, I think I have Jonathan Hankins and Jeremy Sprinkle, if you guys remember him, tight end
Oh man,
out of Arkansas. Yeah. So yeah, it's always kind of cool when those guys follow you. Anyways, pet cats for me, I do think about a Peyton Wilson. Now, not at 24, but he is just a guy that hair on fire. You're never going to question his motor. His want to get involved in a play, regardless if he's 10 yards away or right there at the play, the point of attack. He's always there fighting. The injury concerns are a deal with him, but I was impressed with him as a coverage guy.
Question, EJ?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you willing to risk a second round pick on Wilson?
On Peyton Wilson?
Let's see. How much do you like him, sir?
Here's my thing with Wilson. If you tell me his medicals check out, I'm willing to take him because he hasn't been injured for a little while now. So it's one of those things, man. It's not a neck, it's not a back. Yes, it's the shoulders and stuff like that, and that's a vital part of playing linebacker. But man, this kid is so good at coverage, at playing in run fits, being cerebral, instinctive. When you think of NC State, you don't typically think of like, oh, you're going to get a hard-nosed football player from that, that school. It's not like an Iowa with a Jack Campbell last year, but you see he pops off, the screen whenever you watch that team on tape. And he was just one of those guys I was super impressed with. I think that he could be a green dot guy for you. And obviously you bring in Eric Kendricks, but I really liked him. So he's definitely one of my pet cats, and I know the injury concerns, and I know I spoke so negatively about the second round thing and all that stuff, but dog, if you told me you get a Sean Lee again and you could draft Sean Lee again in the second round, I would take that again, regardless of if I felt like, okay, he's going to stay injured or whatever, because Sean Lee, regardless of what you think about him as a staying healthy, every time he was on the field, he made an impact. Every time he was on the field, he was getting tackles for losses. He was wrapping up. I don't think that I honestly, if start to finish, I don't remember a game where Sean Lee didn't have at least 5 tackles. That's who he was as a linebacker. I think Peyton Wilson can be the same. Now, I don't think he's as good at diagnosing as Sean Lee, but coverage aspect, I think he's better than Sean Lee. He's definitely one of my pet cats. Another guy that I would consider a pet cat is Malik Washington out of Virginia, a little slot wide receiver. But he's a dog. He's like built like a little running back, extreme balance, fearlessness over the middle of the field. And I know that he's only 5'10" or whatever, but he's bigger than half of the wide receivers in the class of last year, like pound for pound wise. So he reminds me a little bit about Zay Flowers. He had plus 100 catches this past year, just absolutely dominated in the ACC. So he's a guy that I really, really liked watching on film. Tavondre Sweat right there is personally one of my pet cats. I just really, really think he's a rare type of player. He's super big, and I know that you have the questions of if he can continue to make an impact the further the game goes on. but I didn't see a guy that wanted to get off the field. I saw a guy that wanted to get back on there, make a difference, paired with Young on the opposite from him. I really liked what Tavondre Sweat did. He's a big, nasty run stopper. And then thinking, I'd probably agree with Brendan. Jackson Powers Johnson, I have a first-round grade on him. I think he's a people mover. You think about the Jason Kelsey, that center that just retired from the Philadelphia Eagles. He's cut from that same cloth where he wants to get up and put you on the ground and make his force shown. So, and it doesn't help that I'm an Oregon Ducks fan, but he's one of the, and I'll say I'm not super high on Troy Franklin in the first round grade. I have a second round grade on him, but I really see a guy that has gotten better each year and continues to get bigger, more play strength, a mover, like Brendan said, and it's one of those things, man. He's definitely a pet cat for me, and if the Cowboys picked him at 24, I would be ecstatic.
So would I.
I Love Weed says, hey, Randy Gregory follows me on Twitter, and it's probably because your name, I Love Weed. No, but that's cool if he actually does. Jordan Stock says, could y'all look at doing some graphics to show the players y'all are talking about, maybe even show highlights of them too? Yeah, Jordan, I do that sometimes when I'm dropping like a top 10 for the offensive line and stuff like that. However, like SEC players tend to get you flagged on YouTube if you show their highlights and stuff like that. SEC doesn't really like their players being highlighted. I don't know why, but for sure, definitely we'll take that positive criticism into the book, and I'll try to incorporate that in the show later, and possibly you guys can as well. Urban Cowboy jumping on here and saying, what's up, touchdown? I don't know what that is. Got to shout him out. Javon Baker from UCF. Mike, have you watched Javon Baker?
Yeah, I would have to get my notes on him. Tuck was talking about him today, but man, I would have to go through. You guys have to remember, we're at players number 383 right now of scouting, and I kind of stick to what, I won't do tight ends, quarterbacks this year because I kind of know Dallas isn't gonna go that way. So I stick to more Dallas related. But I would have to get Baker's notes to go over.
Baker was a transfer from Alabama, I believe. He's better than any Alabama receiver there, including Burton, in my opinion. Physical specimen, can get up and run. Like, he's not any slouch athletically wise. Has good hands. Physical guy. Doesn't have a problem getting off of press man coverage. I haven't really watched him very much other than kind of what you were talking about, the J-Tuck, his breakdown and stuff like that. But as far as like third round rolls around, I'd be interested in Javon Baker. Anyways, though, guys, do you want to go ahead and run through this mock draft? And also, chat, if you guys are in here still, make sure you leave a like and also drop a comment. Help us decide which players we're going with in this mock draft, because it's going to be a fun one. Let me
oh boy.
Let's try to get this.
Are we allowed to trade, or are we just picking straight?
Oh man. No, we can trade. If we find a good trade offer, we can trade. Well, hold on, let me take off my doing this. No, I'm about to take off my I'm taking off my overlay for this so we can see everybody. All right, I'm going to start the draft and we're going to go.
Is this full 7 round?
No, it's not. I did 5 rounds because I feel like if we don't have a 4th round pick, but I feel like 5 rounds is good if we don't trade. If we do pick up the 4th, we can do something there. So Jackson Powers Johnson is on the board for us. We got Graham Barton as well, Peyton Wilson. He's ranked really high in PFF. I said that I wouldn't take him round 1. Got Brian Thomas Jr., which we spoke about. Tyler Guyton is a guy that fits the thresholds for the Cowboys at tackle. Adonai Mitchell. If you don't, Adonai literally means my Lord, I believe, in Hebrew. So, hey, praise the Lord if you get him. Zach Frazier, the center out of West Virginia. And Kool-Aid McKinstry is a guy that possibly Mike Zimmer would look at as a potential fit because he does run a similar defense to kind of how Alabama operates. And those are the guys I'm looking at. Oh my gosh, Braden Fisk is another Pat cat of mine, but I won't go into that wormhole right there. Is any name sticking out to you guys right here? And chat also, like I said, make sure you're putting your opinions in there as well.
Are we drafting to be the most competitive this season, or what? Like draft?
You know what? Hey, we can run through 2 mock drafts. We're gonna do one if you guys have time at least.
Yeah.
We'll do one as the let's go for it this year draft, and one as the build for the future draft. All right.
Well, that's
so
fun.
this one we'll do as the hey, we're going right now to win. Okay.
Gotta be Jackson Powers, right? If that's
So
the case.
we've got I love weed, and he must love weed if he's saying go get Bo Nix, and I'm an Oregon fan. But he's saying go get Bo Nix. We've got Engineered
If
Psycho
Bo's
with
there in
Powers
the
or
5th
Kool-Aid.
round.
If what?
If Bo's there in the 5th round, we'll consider it. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, for real. We got JPJ by Tacos and Touchdowns, and then we've got Tyler Guyton by I Love Weed, which is a way more realistic pick than Bo Nix. Paul, what were you saying?
I was just saying, if we're going for it this year, I would think Jackson Powers would be the easy choice, but
Yeah, that's where I'm kind of landing. But Mike, you were on record as saying you would rather have Barton. So go ahead and make your case. You're in the war room right now. You got to convince us.
Okay, so we're going all. Obviously, my choice would be to trade back, but if we're going all in right now, then center is the correct pick, and I have no problem getting Jackson Powers Johnson. I have Barton rated higher. I think I'm going to be outvoted there, and I understand the reasonings. Barton has to transition back to a center. Jackson Powers Johnson is a center.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I won't even argue against that. I think if you're going for it right now, I have no issue. If y'all's 3 is Jackson Powers Johnson, count me in as the 4th.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting. I think all 3 of us are on the same page. You're in agreement now, Mike, and we've got emphatic JPJs by the chat right here. JPJ. So yeah, I think we're gonna go JPJ right here because.
Can I ask you a question real quick, EJ, before we put that in?
Yeah, go ahead.
For Mike and EJ and Brendan, would you rather have Jackson Powers Johnson and TJ Bass, or Tyler Smith and Graham Barton, and then maybe like a 3rd round center? What would you guys prefer?
Well, Graham Barton would be my center. If we got him, he would be my starting center. That is where I
put him
would
at tackle
play
or
him.
anything.
Yeah, I think. So
You
here's
wouldn't put him at tackle?
here's your. I
Oh.
think your question is:
okay,
would you
okay.
rather kick out Tyler Smith to tackle, play TJ Bass in that guard, Jackson Powers Johnson at center, or go with along the lines of Graham Barton at tackle, Tyler Smith at guard, and then Hoffman
Yeah.
or TJ Bass in center? I would rather the
Exactly,
first. I would rather the first option.
Me
Okay.
too.
All right.
Okay. Let's go ahead and draft Jackson Powers Johnson. Welcome to the team, big boy. And Xavier Worthy right before us. So we got Jermaine Burton, who is a guy who has had some character concerns there at Alabama. He does have a lot of talent. I know Jonathan Brooks is linked to the Cowboys heavily. He has the injury, so who knows? Like I said at the top of the show, I'm picking positions of need, so I think this running back class will stretch more so than the upside of getting Jonathan Brooks round 2. I'm interested in what you guys think. Kieran Amagaji is here from Yale. Obviously, he's playing against doctors and lawyers. However, his tape was decently good. Whenever I watched it, I thought that he had good sets. He can get out to the kick step. He had decent hands. Athletic guy, so I'm interested in him at 57 or 56. Sorry, Jalen Polk, another wide receiver, and Jalen McMillan as well, out of Washington. Both of those guys. We talked a little bit about Chris Jenkins. I know Mike said,
I will fight people if they try to take Jenkins right here.
The bad.
Okay,
I kind of want to do it now.
No,
Xavier Legette, a wide receiver out of South Carolina, kind of a late bloomer. However, he did lose both of his parents before he even graduated high school. He had a lot of, things that happened in his life. And he was hampered a little bit by some injuries and stuff like that happened to hold him down a little bit, but he didn't let that defeat him. He came in, he competed at South Carolina, was there, I think, for 5 years, and he finally broke out this past year, getting the starting role in the offseason and really capitalizing on it. So I really do like Xavier Legette. Country boy, fit right here in Dallas. I was kind of cracking up about his voice whenever I first heard it. But, you know, if you like a Randy Moss kind of twang to the voices of your wide receivers, he'd be a good pick for you.
Bro, he sounds like Forrest Gump.
Yeah, no, yeah, he does. Junior Colson, linebacker right here out of Michigan, which I already know my guy Falcon's going to be clamoring for him in the chat. Kyrie Jackson, a transfer from Alabama, bigger dude, really good impressed man. Sometimes gets caught not, getting his head all the way around and can be a little bit physical downfield, which can be a good or bad thing at the next level. Jalen Wright, speedster out of Tennessee, but he's got some power to his game. He's very good. Tez Walker, I'm out on. Don't really love him. Interested to hear your guys' takes on him, and then Tavondre Sweat.
Okay.
Wow, Javon Baker's up the board as well. So any of these names popping off?
My thing would be trading back, because I don't want to take the running back this early. I don't see an edge that fits well enough there, and there's enough wide receivers that I'm willing to risk moving back.
And pick up
then
the fourth.
on the move back, I would look to see what wide receivers we have left, and if not, look and see if Sweat falls right into our lap or Colston.
You wouldn't take Tavondre Sweat right here?
Look at it.
Mike?
What?
You wouldn't take Tavondre Sweat right here?
No, I would move back. I'm looking to I think there's wide receivers on the board better than Sweat, but wide receiver stretches. So, man, here's the thing about taking Jackson Powers Johnson and why I believe Dallas is gonna not be so keen on getting a center early. Center stretches, man, and I'm telling you, we're going to be in the third round of this draft.
Yeah,
going, oh man, I would have took 3-4 of these centers they could have started for us.
And I mean, to your point, like Christian Mahogany, Christian Haynes, those are some guards that could transition into, and McCormick as well could transition in there to center as well. So you do have a good point about that. I will fight a little bit more with you because I feel like Jackson Powers Johnson is just way better than those guys at center already. And like I said, I mentioned, I want one of those Hall of Fame guys like a Jason Kelsey to get in there, like a Travis Frederick, whose career was cut short. Like, I want one of those people movers, hard-nosed guys that don't have problems sitting on the islands against those Leonard Williams, against those Javon Hargraves, and those big dudes that are in the trenches for some of your rivals.
I'm going through my stack. Sorry to check.
I was listening to 105.3 The Fan, and they were talking about Braylon Trice even potentially at 24. What are your thoughts on him, EJ?
Braylon Trice, the edge rusher out of Washington.
Yeah.
Big man. Big boy.
Yeah, I struggle with Braylon Trice, I'll be honest. I don't see a lot of elite bend. I don't see him being incredible at any one facet of the game. He's just solid. Like, he reminds me kind of like a little bit of like a, I don't want to say poor man, but he kind of reminds me a little bit of like a George Karlaftis. Like, really like good, solid. Like, he'll probably be a pro for a long time. I just don't think that he'll ever be one of those difference makers at edge.
Yeah.
So like, I like him. I just don't love him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you.
I'm gonna grab a drink out of my fridge real quick.
McMillan
at 56, really?
I'm
still thinking in trade back mode.
Okay.
Okay. Well, here's what we need to decide. Are we gonna look at these trades real quick, and how far do we want to jump back? Because we have 22 trade offers here. I think if we jump back to maybe Arizona Cardinals at 66, we could probably pick up their fourth rounder at 90, and we'll give them 56. Does that sound good? Or
I would do that 100%.
I feel really comfortable with that.
Okay, let's see. Okay, trade accepted. Hey. So we're good. Let's resume this draft and see what happens. And McMillan jumps off right there. Sweat. Braylon Trice went. Ellis Worley.
Doesn't
Amagaji
look like
went.
it.
Does not look like. Nope. Devondre Sweat is still up
So
there.
my
Um,
my battle would be Sweat, Colston, or I don't know if I'd go Brooks, especially picking up another pick. I think Bucky Irvin, Blake Corum,
I'm a big Bucky guy.
Benson. I don't know if he's
Trey
gone
Benson.
already,
Yep.
but I think you have enough linebackers to pick from maybe in your next pick or the extra pick at 90 we picked up. So my battle would be Colston or Sweat, and I would let you guys fight that out, and I would be happy to go. My deal was I got us 90. I'm happy with that. I fought for the trade back. You guys decide the player.
Yeah. So I'm pulling up wide receiver, tackle, and linebacker right now. Blake Fisher is a name that he's been a starter for Notre Dame for some time. Not in love with him, but at this range, you're talking third round now. I would feel comfortable with Fisher. I know Joe Alt is the guy at Notre Dame, but Blake Fisher, watching the tape, he was not bad at all. I thought that he was pretty good with his hands, strong player. Just doesn't have those flash plays that are like crazy like the Joe Alts where you're seeing him, getting pulled and running down 15 yards and then just pancaking people. So, but he's solid. So he's a name I would check out. Malachi Corley, cut from the same cloth as a Debo Samuel. I think he has the most broken tackles at the college level the past 2 years, and I think it's upwards of like 50 for a wide receiver. That's absolutely crazy. So he's a name I would check out. Javon Baker, we talked a little bit about. I said I was out on Tez Walker. He's another guy that I don't really feel like separates all well. Had the drop problems at the Senior Bowl. Doesn't gear down very well, and I know he has that over-the-top speed, but one thing I definitely look for if you have the long speed, can you gear down? Because if you can't sell the curls and the comebacks, I don't have trust that you're going to continue to win on the long ball because they can just push back. The corners can push back and give you so much cushion because they don't feel like they can't break on the curls and the comeback routes. So I didn't love him in that respect, so I wouldn't look to grab him here. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. wasn't in love with the player. Obviously, I don't think that he really even meets the Cowboys' thresholds for linebacker. Patrick Paul, another tackle that's out of Houston. I have not watched him, so I don't know if you have watched him, Mike.
Future guy. If we're doing winning now, I think with Jackson Powers Johnson, your plan's going to be to go Tyler, Bass, Johnson, Martin, Steele.
Yeah.
Just my opinion. I don't think with how many holes we have, I think it would be more important to get a linebacker, a defensive tackle, or a wide receiver than it would to get another lineman, just because TJ Bass kind of showed you, well, he's at least enough to be a starting player.
Yeah.
So I would lean towards moving Tyler to win now and trying to fill another hole at defense or get better at wide receiver.
Yeah. Brendan or Paul, you guys have any input on these players that you've seen so far?
I would just say Junior Colson would be my personal pick. I think he'd be a good complement to the linebacker room that we have, with Kendricks and Clark and Overshown, not really knowing what we're going to have in Overshown this year. And Kendricks being a little bit older, I think he would be the player that I would want just in case an injury were to take place.
Yeah. I'm interested.
Paul?
Of course.
If I told you we're trying to win now, do you think Colston or Sweat? And like I said, I'm out of this vote. I'm just trying to throw shit out there to you guys.
I thought defensive tackle was off the board just because of the positions that are on the board right now. So, I mean, I would rather have Tavondre Sweat, but I thought we were avoiding defensive tackle just because.
Oh, no, we can pull it back up.
That's my fault.
Yeah, Tavondre Sweat, Junior Colston would be my pick.
I like throwing crap out to you guys. That's all.
Brendan?
Of course.
D-line rotate a lot more than linebackers do. Mainly if Overshown can stay healthy this year, Kendricks will stay out there for most of the time just because he is the green dot and he knows the scheme. It's Sweat. There, you have nothing at defensive tackle other than Osa and Mozzie, and you don't even know what you have in Mozzie. So
Good.
it's
Good.
Sweat.
I'm glad that I don't even have to argue the Junior Colson thing and I'm interested kind of what you think about him, Mike. I like him. I don't love him. I think that he guesses a little bit in the run fit game. He's not great in coverage. He's a good, solid linebacker, and I know that he was one of those, kind of captain guys for Michigan's, a foundational piece for that defense. But like compared to like Edrin Cooper and Peyton Wilson, I think he's a tier down from those guys. Just my personal thought. However, we're in the 3rd round now, so if somebody wanted to lean Colson, I would probably go there. But it seems like everybody's going Sweat, and he's made it to the 3rd round, and I said he was a pet cat of mine. So does it seem like we're going Sweat?
Yeah,
Go Sweat.
Yeah,
I like
okay.
Colston. I don't think I'm with you. I think if he's there in the 3rd round, you take him, and he's more of build him for when Kendricks leaves than play him over Clark or Overshone. I think he plays, but he's more of he needs a year to build up, learn the scheme and everything. I'm not drafting him before the 3rd round personally.
Okay. We went to they got the forfeited pick for Miami right there. We went to the bottom of the 3rd now, and we've got pretty close picks right here for the Cowboys now. An opportunity to add some players that will be a difference makers for us. I'm eyeing Bucky Irvin, Trey Benson. In one of these 2 picks, I want to pick a running back because I think these 2 guys can be difference makers. Bucky Irvin, you talk about the balance, the ability to break tackles. Smaller guy, but really, really useful in the receiving game as well. Terrible, and I will emphasize this, terrible in pass pro. He's not picking up blitz pickups. I'm going to tell you that right now. He's horrible at that. But everything else you want a running back to do, he's good at. Trey Benson, you get the upside of, he has that track speed. He also played for Oregon once upon a time as well. But he has that track speed. He has a different gear, kind of a 5th gear whenever he gets up to speed. Better in pass pro. He's good as a receiving back. I just don't think the FSU really used him that much in that department. I thought that in like the options or the middle of the field option routes for running backs, he was solid. And then obviously your regular screens and stuff like that. So I liked him. Christian Mahogany, we talked a little bit about. Cedric Van Pran, which is one of those 3rd round centers that Mike was talking about. McCormick is a guard that you could develop as well.
We're running past the guy I want.
Who was that?
Max Melton, man.
Max Melton. I haven't watched him.
Rutgers. Okay, so I believe he fits. Here's my thing. I would rather have Bucky Irvin or Benson. The way I'm thinking about this is I don't see Green Bay and Tampa both taking running backs.
Yeah.
So my thought is we can pick another player and then I would take Bucky Irvin or Benson over Corum by a mile. I like Corum, but I like Bucky and Benson more.
Yeah.
So my thought is a Max Melton or a Patrick Paul, but winning now would be more, I think, Max Melton. Picking a guy like that and then going running back. And if somebody picks one of them, if they pick Bucky Irvin, you take Benson. If they pick Benson, you take.
I'll say sell me on Max Milton because I'm also looking at Baker as like possibly one of those last wide receivers that I feel good about as well. You
know what? Yeah, go to wide receiver first, and let's look. Yeah, let's look at wide receiver. Oh, Abrams drain.
Malik Washington's there.
Okay, you know what? I actually agree. I like the cornerbacks we have available more than the wide receivers coming up. How far down is Chris Abrams drain? He was up closer to the top. Is he someone that could him? So he could make it to us to the next one too.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, my guy Aaron B actually brought him up, and I think he had a formal visit with the Cowboys as well. So I believe he's more of like more of a nickel corner, though, right?
Correct. But
Okay.
he fits what Zim would want in the nickel. He also, you would have the nastiest 3 intercepting people like in the world. So I agree with you. I'm flipping it up. I think if you're not picking one of the running backs first, you would go Baker here and then take the running back that was left. I would take Baker over Melton. I missed him, to be honest with you. I didn't see Baker. I spotted Melton and kind of got hard eyes there for a second.
Okay. And Brendan, thoughts?
Well,
Sorry.
no, that's funny. And y'all obviously know more than me, in which like I'm all for learning, so I'm just like listening to y'all talk and all that. Jay Tuck kind of sold me on Benson, so like I like him a lot. But if we can get him at pick 90, I'm completely okay with it. So of course y'all know more about these other 2 players more than
Now
I do.
wait. Now what if we're risking losing both running backs? Do we want to just pick the running back we want right now? Forget me thinking about other players and using strategy to like, oh, there's 3 running backs and only 2 spots and we can do this and that. What if Benson's the best, or Irvin or whoever is the best guy and we're risking losing him trying to be cute?
My thing is, you got to always take in mind positional value. Running back, you use them for, I think this is where the NFL is heading, truthfully. You use them for the 4 years and you go ahead and draft a new one. And so for me, I'm looking at, do we aim for the Javon Baker, who led all of the Big 12 in receiving yards this past year, played at Alabama, high recruited player, physical specimen, can play X as a wide receiver, and then come back and possibly get one of these corners that you feel good about? Because remember, they only upped to Jordan Lewis for a 1-year deal. You have no idea what you have in Eric Scott Jr. You don't know what Israel Mukwamu is. Is he a safety? Is he a corner? Who even knows at this point? Noah Igbenogany is out of the building as well. So, who knows? It's the only people that are certainly on this team for cornerback moving forward is Diggs and Bland. So I think corner is a sneaky need, and it's a position of value, like I mentioned, over running back. And I'll be quite frank about it. Running back in the 5th round doesn't bother me. Like, I'll feel like, okay, cool, we'll draft him in the 5th round. But if somebody feels highly enough of a Trey Benson, I'm willing to open up that possibility.
Here's the battle. And like I said, I'm just throwing stuff out. I 100% agree. I would not go running back at 87. If I'm going to battle with you about 90, we're trying to win this year.
Yeah.
Benson's probably the best running back on the board. I really like Bucky Irvin, but most complete, I would say Benson. If we're trying to win right now this year.
Okay. So are you guys good?
I'd rather get Benson at 90 than get a cornerback that's not going to be in our top 3, maybe not our top 4, depending on what they do with Izzy or what Zim likes.
Yeah.
And miss a guy for a running back that maybe isn't complete enough later on.
Okay.
Now,
No, I like your thought process right there. Is everybody good to go Baker with this pick right here, though? And see where okay. So let's go Baker real quick. And Blake Corum went off the board,
awesome.
Patrick Paul. So here's our guys. So I'm going to pull up running back and I'm going to pull up cornerback, and any arguments that are made are made, So for me, I think like Ray Davis, I'm a huge Lloyd fan. I really like Lloyd.
I like
Audric Estime is like, if Audric Estime made it to the 5th round, I'd love that pick. I just feel like he does running back stuff. He's gonna pick up the blitzes. He's gonna give you those tough yards. Maybe he's not gonna rip off 30-yard runs. He doesn't have that speed, but he can consistently get you 8 and 10. He did it at Notre Dame all the time. So I feel good about running back. I'll be honest, I've only watched one corner, like actual film down, analyzed everything, and that was a dude that's Cooper DeJean, or DeJean, or however you say his last name, which is way long gone. So, I'm open ears. Go ahead.
Go Go ahead, please,
I'm
Brandon.
like, do you expect them to sign another? Of course, I think they'll get like a vet minimum guy, but do you think they're going to get someone at running back that can actually help them this year?
Something tells me no. I think that Rico. I honestly don't think that they were going to re-sign Rico Dowdle. I think they were trying to eye AJ Dillon or Zach Moss or somebody like that, and then fill the other position in the draft. I think that they got too cute last year, and I liked Deuce Vaughn. Don't get me wrong. I think that they felt like, hey, let's do this really good thing for his dad, who's on our scouting department, and let's draft his like. I really think that Deuce Vaughn was going to be a UDFA, and you could have pulled him in like that. But it's one of those things, man. Do you have trust in who you have here in Deuce and Hunter Lipke and whoever else, Malik Davis? Or do you feel like it's Rico and a draft pick? And I'm along the side of the latter, Rico and a draft pick. That's where I'm at.
Doesn't Zeke still have a cap hit with us this year?
Yeah, he does.
That's why I'm leaning more towards a running back right now.
And if we're trying to win now, you want the most complete guy you can get, because my thing about I'm a big fan of Bucky Irvin, but if Bucky Irvin's gonna be your number one guy, he's just he's just better than Rico Dowdle. But you could end up getting your quarterback killed because he misses an assignment on a pass block. Where Trey Benson isn't elite at that, but he's a little bit better at it.
Yeah, I would have liked Bucky Irvin paired more with Tony Pollard because I think he's better in pass protection.
Even Dylan.
Or somebody that's just better. Yeah. I'm not so sure that Rico Dowdle is a good in that department, so I would probably lean Benson here. But I really like this guy down here, Marshawn Lloyd.
When is our next pick?
174.
Our next pick, it's far down.
Well, see, then here's the thing that I would say then. Do you like Marshawn Lloyd? Would you have him stacked higher than Trey Benson as a running back? Would you grade him higher?
I don't have him graded higher, but I have them both as second round grades. So it is what it is.
I think if we're going win this year,
Trey Benson.
My pick would be Benson. But man, I don't think either of those corners are going to make it either, Melton or Chris Drain. But I mean, we have 3 starting corners, and if something happens, you have a better chance at drafting a vet corner or one of your young guys like Izzy playing than you do finding a running back that could come in. I mean, there's just not a lot left. Paul, what do you think?
I don't know, because I feel like a win now move, you would want to get maybe you'd want to get Zimmer some more guys, and you talked a little bit about Max Melton, so that's who I was kind of on my mind, but I was also thinking about a trade. Could we trade back to like 110 or something and see who's there and maybe get a 4th round pick somehow?
110.
I would not be mad about that, honestly. That's
and
a
maybe
good
get
idea,
like a Will Shipley or something. I don't know how you feel about him, EJ, but
yeah, I think he's kind of just a guy, but that's
the Cowboys love him.
All right, we can drop here. We can drop to 108 and pick up 129 as well from Minnesota for our 90th pick.
How would you guys feel about that?
Do you think Marsh, the running back you like, would make it to 108?
Audrey Castillo will probably be there.
I feel like he could make it.
And you're good with him being running back 1 rookie year? Throw him out there.
Yeah, I am.
Then I'm up for it. I'm down.
Let's do it.
Hey, this team needs players. Like
it does.
We know that they need picks too.
Taman went 2.
Oh my God, Benson made it.
No way.
All right, let's just lock in Benson here. I think, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Although I love
Chris Abrams drain went off the board though.
Did Tampa go 2 running backs? They went Blake Corum and then they went somebody else.
Did they?
Or was I just?
Bucky Irving. Yes, they
What
did.
the?
They're two
I
totally
don't
different
know.
types of runners.
Wait.
But
They are.
But
All right, we're gonna
They
go
already
Trey
have
Benson.
Rashad White. That
Yeah,
doesn't make any sense.
Oh,
Let's go Trey Benson.
Yeah.
yeah, I agree.
Just to move this along, since
hey.
we're doing a whole nother draft.
Hey,
Ooh,
can I-
Cooper Beebe is good value here.
Paul is
How the
clutch.
hell
Oh wow,
is
there's
Cooper
Braylon
Beebe
Allen there
still
too.
there?
Holy cow!
Paul comes up clutch with that trade.
I love Carson too, but I don't see how you pass up on Beebe if he's there.
That's a
Kalen
great
Carson
pick.
is a Cowboys style running.
Oh, there's Newton, Brendan.
I like Cooper Beebe more. I love Newton, but
Cedric Gray is good too. Damn, we got some ballers down here later on.
Do you want to trade
Solid.
again? What do you want?
PFF is kind of crazy with their
all
values
right.
on players, man.
I think he's right. I don't see how you could. Man, Cooper Beebe would be hard to pass up. I mean, can you click on Kalen Carson?
Yeah. Let me go ahead.
So I could see his height and everything because I can't remember.
6 foot, 195, junior. Lacks the long speed recovery speed to play on as an island corner. That's what it says. He can be a CB 2 to 3 as an off coverage defender in a zone heavy scheme,
That won't
bringing
work
good
for
downhill.
Zimmer.
Yeah,
That will
that's
not
exactly
work.
what I was about to
Okay.
say. I say we go Cooper Beebe. Like I know, I fully understand that he's a guard, that could possibly play center, but like
Best
we're
player.
just talking, BPA, and we filled most of the needs on this team other than I guess linebacker. Did we pick a linebacker? Cedric
And-
Gray might be a good pickup here.
Is
I
Cooper
almost
Beebe
wanted
a
to talk
potential
you
like
guys
Zach
into
Martin
Eichenberg
replacement?
last one.
Hopper is the guy that was also a formal visit with the Cowboys, I believe. Curtis Jacobs, I know he's like ranked 236. I actually really like this kid on tape. Thought he was pretty instinctual and he had some athletic prowess and was pretty good in coverage.
Here's my thing about BB. Zach Martin's 2 years. I mean, let's give him his 2-3 years. If we're talking like for sure, like for certain he's going to go. I mean, if like you're an injury away, he's an older player. You know, his play was still all pro level, but it was down from before. Like if we're doing rebuild O-line and we're moving Tyler Smith out to tackle and we got the new center and Tyler Bass is there.
You got a good point. I mean, Zach
Start
Martin, I
looking.
think is this year and next year on the books,
Yeah.
and then after that, and so yeah, I think that Cooper Beebe is definitely there for me, and the value is so good right there too. It's so hard.
How realistic
Somebody,
is this?
Urban Cowboy brought up, what if CD sprains an ankle or something? We did pick up Baker.
picked
I
up
don't know if you
Baker.
saw that. So we did pick up another wide receiver in round 3. What was your question, Paul? Sorry.
I was just saying, how realistic is this?
Hey,
I don't
Yeah.
see
yeah.
BB falling that far.
I definitely don't. Cedric Gray could probably be here in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm
But that's
good
where
with
you
either
take
of these
BB.
guys.
BB for sure.
Let's pick BB. I think everybody's on board with BB. And plus we have to do a whole nother draft, and this one's been going on for like 30 minutes now. So all right, our last pick here. Dylan Johnson is a name that I know. Joe Milton, if you ever need a Hail Mary, he can throw it.
What's the linebackers? We got a special teams linebacker we could throw in for old Fossil. Linebacker,
Yeah.
corner, safety, something like
Hey,
that.
Tyron Hopper was a formal visit at the combine with the Cowboys, I believe. Curtis Jacobs, like another guy I think is underrated. Masu, I want to say he went to the Shrine Bowl and was pretty good there. Trayvon Wallace, shorter guy, I believe. Let me pull him up. Oh, 6'2", 240. Okay, so not bad height. He's a guy that's athletic from what I've heard. I haven't watched him, so a lot of these guys I haven't watched other than I haven't. Oh yeah, Curtis Jacobs is the only one I've watched. So I would be interested in those names that I saw: Hopper, Jacobs, Wallace, Mausu. What do you guys think?
I like if the guy was on a visit. We all know Dallas likes their visit guys.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't on a visit. It was just at the combine, just a meeting with a positional coach.
Gotcha.
So
I'm looking special teams here. I'm trying to get Fossil a guy. So whatever you guys think, linebacker, corner, safety, something like that, I think would be
They won't go
his
safety.
area.
They won't go safety.
They have enough of them. That's
I
for
say
Yeah.
I say we pick one of these linebackers. Which
well,
one do
we'll
you
leave it
guys?
to you, EJ. You pick them. It's late enough.
If I'm going off what I think of them, I'm gonna go with Jacobs.
Perfect.
Let's do
You
it.
guys
So-
cool with that?
Oh, sorry, I already picked.
No,
I already did
that's
it. I already
good.
did it. All right, our
I think we did
famous
that.
little grade right here. F for my last pick, but hey, he's a special teamer, and I think he's better than what they have him ranked here.
Yeah.
B
we're
plus
pretty
overall though.
This draft would be
So-
insane.
Yeah, this will be a really good draft. I like this draft. Go ahead and screenshot this. Send it to your mom. Send it to Jerry Jones, whoever you want to see. And let's make it a reality. Let's load up this next mock. We're gonna go 5. Let's go 4 rounds instead of on this one since we're
Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree.
last one took a little bit long.
This
But
is the build for the future, right?
Yeah.
this one's for the future. Jackson Powers Johnson there, Graham Barton again, Peyton Wilson, Brian Thomas, Tyler Guyton, Adonai Mitchell, Zach Frazier. Who do we go? I think the
Kool-Aid.
future pick, in my opinion, is Tyler Guyton. But I'm open ears. Kool-Aid is another
LSU
like yeah,
wide
we've
receiver.
talked about corner being a sneaky need. So
I like him too.
Brian
My
Thomas
highest
Jr.
guy graded would be Brian Thomas Jr.
I would not be mad about that at all. But I could like it for both different, both versions of what we're drafting. But
Butters, it was JPJ last time. A duck, a linebacker, and a lamb walk into the locker room. Oh, gosh.
Prescott. This ain't the Across the
Oh,
Cowboys
man.
podcast, Prescott. He's the 4th member on our podcast.
no,
so he,
easily.
That's funny. I if I'm building for the future, I think it's Tyler Guyton, or Brian Thomas. That's just me. What do you guys think, and where are you guys at?
I'm liking Brian Thomas, honestly.
Cook's
Brian Thomas sounds good
replacement.
to me.
You gotta pay CD
Brian
Lamb.
Thomas.
You pair him with him. Cooks moves on.
Let's go Brian Thomas then. Lock it in.
Yeah.
Boom.
It's also just a fun pick. Like it'd be so much fun to watch him and CD.
It is. All right, so Burton, we just took a wide receiver, so we're not going to look at wide receivers. Amagaji, developmental tackle out of Yale. I mentioned him a little bit earlier. Jonathan Brooks, you're talking about, future. He's a guy that might. I guess he's supposed to be good to go at the start of the season, but he's one of those guys. A lot of upside. Stuck behind Roshan Johnson and Bishan Johnson last year at Texas. Both of those guys in the league now, and so he finally just popped off last year, but it wasn't because he wasn't good enough to get on the field. It was just they had other pro running backs in that system last year. So Xavier Legette, I know we just picked a wide receiver, but man, I like Legette.
I wouldn't hate you for that.
Haynes,
Double dipping, Mike.
double
dipping?
dip, double
Bro,
dip.
imagine next year you walk in with Brian Thomas, CD Lamb, and
Xavier.
Xavier Legette. Gross.
Ooh. That's
Why would
that's
you
nasty.
why would you do that? Now my brain's contemplating. Like, there's no way in the world Dallas go round 1, round 2 receiver.
Have
There's
you
no
watched
way.
Jonah Ellis?
Yeah, I don't scout the helmet, but he feels very Utah edge like. Click on him. Let me see his size again because I don't have him in my stack in front of me.
You're talking like Bradley and Nye here. Wasn't Bradley and Nye out of Utah?
Yeah.
First of all, I loved Bradley and I was very happy when we got him. I was so sad he didn't make it. Yeah, see, this is where I don't believe he fits. Strength and length. Like Dallas is
46. My God.
Yeah.
Dallas believes in strength and length, guys. Like that is their
Yeah. I'll be honest. I think that this edge class as a whole is probably the worst group out of it. Well, I guess maybe you could say safety. safety, edge, like seem like the worst position groups for this entire draft. Maybe factor in tight end, because after Bowers, it's pretty you know.
Yeah.
But I would probably wait on edge. For me, I know Austin Booker is a guy that popped off at Kansas this last year. 6'6", 245. You're talking about replacing a former KU Jayhawk and Dorrance Armstrong. Austin Booker could be your replacement there. This is the build for the future draft. So,
I'm still on. I might be team trade back if I'm picking here. If we're deciding not to do trades, it might be if we're doing Dallas too, like what Dallas would do. Brooks feels so Dallas.
It's the most Dallas pick that they could make this year.
Yeah, or Wilson. Brooks or Wilson is very Dallas.
If Wilson's in the second, I wouldn't be mad with Junior Colson right here either. We're talking about for years later for him to actually win.
I wouldn't pick him to the third, but I understand where Dallas could.
I don't see him falling that far though.
Well, if we're picking for the future, I honestly think that they want to get a 4th round pick at some point, so they probably will drop back. So
agreed.
Let's try to kick back to 64 maybe. Let's see if the Chiefs would do that. They have an abundance of riches. Come on, Chiefs. Okay, trade offer accepted.
Perfect.
So we're dropping down here a couple spots, really not that much. But we still have Jonathan Brooks. Honestly, that feels like a Cowboys pick. In my predictive mock draft I did for the Cowboys, I had Jordan Morgan going 1, and I had Jonathan Brooks going 2. So I really see that, and I'm completely on board with going that.
Well, let's do it. I'm in.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that for the build for the future draft, and we have our running back and we have our wide receiver. So build for the future. Patrick Paul is very much in play, in my opinion. Christian Mahogany maybe kicking there to center. Cedric Van Pran.
I'm a fan of San Fran.
San Fran?
No,
get the hell out. Nope. I'm sorry. Brendan, you said San Fran. Get off of my pot. No, I'm just kidding.
I got booted like that.
I will say also that I know for a fact, I can tell you for certain that Dallas likes Van Pran. And if he was available at 87, I think that would almost guaranteed be the pick.
Let's pick Van Pran then. I'm down for it.
Yeah. And it allows us, when you pick one of the offensive linemen, it allows you to know what you're doing with Tyler. Because if you get a center and you have TJ Bass, you can make your move.
Yeah.
Welcome to the all offensive draft.
Yeah,
for real,
facts.
we really did.
Let's go look at linebacker.
For real.
Tommy Eichenberg, kind of been lost in the shuffle a little bit. Had a down year this past year, but I wouldn't mind Eichenberg. I really wouldn't.
Size too.
Yeah.
Well, with what you think we could trade back a little bit and he'd still be there?
Technically we don't. Technically, this is still a 3rd round pick. So if we want to drop into the 4th round, which would be 101. Let's see, 101. We pick 101, and then is 142? No, 142 would not be in the 3rd or 4th. So furthest back we could pick is 135. So we got to find a team that has 2 picks in this range.
I think Tampa might.
Nope, Tampa doesn't.
They got to take their running back. They got to take their running backs, man. Come on.
They picked Bucky Irving again. Let's look. Chargers have 105. They have 105 and 110.
They may be too close together, but we'll see. Maybe we have to throw in a late one of ours.
Okay, well they took it straight up. Hey, so we're dropping back again. Let's go, boys. We already picked our running back last time, so we don't need to see any running backs.
I don't think any of the linebackers go. I don't think they did.
Chris Abrams-Drain's there.
Ugh.
Tommy Eichenberg's there.
That's the two I want to get. God,
We could. Hey, there's a chance we could.
I would probably go Eichenberg as much as I like Abrams Drain. I think they would go Eichenberg because I think he could play special teams right away and could be a future middle for you.
I'm just looking at the teams in front of us on the 110 pick. There's one cornerback. Minnesota has DB. Giants have DB. Everybody has DB, okay, right? None of them have linebacker except for the Giants. So I feel
maybe
like
it's
Abrams Drain, we might go 105 and see if Tommy lasts. You feel good about that, guys?
Let's do it.
I'm with it.
No, Duh. I said that the Giants were the only team that had linebacker up
The
there.
Giants hate us. Why is Trey Benson there?
Hey.
Cedric Gray.
Hey, he's
That's
not.
not bad. He's not a middle.
Cedric Gray is somebody I'd look to grab.
Yeah, not bad.
What am I missing?
Let's
ST?
see,
What
we
the hell
got
is that?
corner,
Safety?
Special teams.
Special teams.
Kicker, punter.
I see. I was like, what the hell is ST?
DT.
Cooper Beebe's there, of course he is.
Cooper.
I would still.
Hey, I mean, we're building for the future. Cooper is
Yeah,
a good
you're right.
pick, guys.
Maybe I probably still would get. What about DT?
DT. Leonard Taylor III, who was a highly touted guy. McKinley Jackson would be
He's on
interesting.
Cowboys. He's on
Radar.
Cowboys. Thing.
Christian
He's
Boyd
on-
as well.
Do we do Taylor just to make
Mike Tag happy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we could do that. Get a U guy for him.
Well, Mike is not in the chat anymore, so we're not doing it.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, Mike.
No shade to Mike.
I don't know
Good
how
show.
he's going to do his hype videos this year, man. He's going to be like, all right, guys.
Cowboys Nation. He's gonna be Cowboys Nation. Are you ready to go?
Nah,
Can I get a? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
He's still he's still gonna bring the hype. There's no way that man won't.
Can you dig it?
I'm going either BB again, Jackson, or Gray. It would be one of those three.
BB. I'm going BB personally.
I like Cooper Beebe, man.
We're going
do it.
BB. Let's get it.
Hey, Zimmer, you just find some people off the streets. You go do your thing.
I'm not even trying to be punny, but Cooper is my BB.
All right, so I think this is my time to leave. If you look at the time.
No, okay, so we got A's on the first two picks, B's on the second two picks, and then we ended up with the C's. So looks like my report card from high school.
That was
But hey,
crazy.
overall, A minus.
Imagine Cooper Beebe getting a C minus at pick 110 of the fourth round. That man will be gone top 70.
Yeah. No, I feel the same about him. Especially just with what he showed during the draft process of, the combine, and anytime any reports came out about him, it was always super smart guy, gonna be a long-time pro, just good positive things about him. Like, if you're hearing those whispers, I seriously doubt that the guy makes it to the fourth round. So with that, send this one to Jerry Jones if you're trying to build for the future. I don't know if you guys have his email or whatever, but if you do, forward it to me, because I need to write him an angry email. With that being said, let me go ahead and pull these guys back up, and we shall send them off on their way. I think I'm supposed to be on your guys' podcast next Monday, so we're just gonna re-up it again next Monday. But for me, my name is EJ Savage. If you guys have tuned in this long and you liked kind of what was rocking here, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the show, put your notifications on so that you don't miss any live shows. It was fun. My guy Engineered Psycho as well, always cheer me on Twitter. I'm glad that you're in the chat this time, buddy. Super fun to see you. Jordan Stock from your guys' side of things. Good job, fellas. I'll try to take the advice on pulling up the players and stuff like that. So I appreciate that. Anyways, you guys go ahead and I'll let you guys do your own send-off right here. Go ahead, Mike.
I talk a lot. Sorry, y'all. C, D, Piglet. That's what I do in the other one. So I'll see you on Twitter there.
Yeah, guys, you can catch me on Twitter at Paul_Ryan15.
Mike tries to get us canceled on our podcast, but luckily he was good here. You can
I
find
was
me.
good.
You can find me at Brennan_Smith26.
Hey, that was awesome. And they
I have a
they
joke
have
I
a
wanna tell you
podcast.
guys. No.
Oh, go ahead. Tell your joke.
No.
Oh, I thought you were being for real.
No, you don't.
Anyways, yeah, like I said, their guys' podcast is Across the Cowboys podcast every single Monday night. Go ahead and check them out. Really fun show, and I'm going to be on there next Monday, I believe. So if you like this show, go ahead and re-up on the post show, I guess we'll call it, or the episode 2 or something like that on your guys' channel. It should be a fun time.
The sequel.
And as always, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you next week. Peace.